What if instead of raising $3 million from VCs, you gave 20% of your company to a creator for $0? What if AI could replace entire teams with small language models? And what if brand tokens are actually working, just not how we expected? Today, we're breaking down 3 trends that are quietly reshaping how value gets created and captured in the creator space. So instead of raising $3 million from VCs, giving 20% of your company to a creator for $0 is a very viable thing. Greg Eisenberg recently tweeted out why this might be the smartest move a company or a brand, really any entity, could make. And I think a lot of it really just goes back to standard seed round dilutions being around 15 to 20%. We'll certainly have to fact check that. But effectively, you'd need $3 million to build and find customers. VCs want their ownership target. Everyone knows this method, but I'd say increasingly founders are realizing something. They don't necessarily need $3 million to build software anymore. What keeps them up at night isn't building, it's actually finding the right customers. And that entry point, you have a creator with, let's say, 500,000 YouTube subscribers. Those subscribers are their exact target customers in their exact niche. The creator already has that built-in trust, and one authentic mention is worth 6 months of paid ads, which is insane. You offer them 20% of your company. It's the same dilution as a seed round, but instead of the cash, you can't spend it pretty efficiently. You actually get customers you can monetize immediately from a lot of the brand building and trust and community the creator has already made. The YouTuber is really stoked because sponsorships at most probably pay $30K a month. I think that's mostly bound to how the negotiations take place. But equity could be worth $30 million. They'll promote this product for years because they're an owner and not a rental. Now you can raise a Series A at $30 million with actual revenue instead of a seed at $12 million with hopes and a dream. So a large part of this is creator seed rounds. You're effectively trading dilution for distribution, and it really just might work. I effectively saw this tweet that Greg had written a while back, and it just seemed like very in line with a lot of what creators are starting to do. I'm not saying like a creator that has just started and is building their own brand or community. Like, these are more so like late stage creators, right? You've more or less have already made it. It's kind of similar to like the Jake Pauls, right? And Jake, for what it's worth, like outside of being one of the marquee creators, just in general, like he's also a very savvy investor, right? He's been investing in a lot of different AI companies. I think his fund is actually called Anti-Fund from what I remember, but just a lot of strong plays. And I think it's really changing the model of how creators are utilizing their net worth or their money. I think initially, you and I had some discussions about what a lot of these individuals were doing with their money, after achieving success and fame, right? They're, helping their parents buy houses, they're buying cars, like they're increasing their own equity and things. But I think when it comes to like business acumen and looking at companies, like this seems like a really viable path for creator equity to become like a larger thing within like tech or like the business space. Like it truly seems to be like a new investment model that I probably would, see more instances happening over time as a lot of these creators start to kind of dabble in their own business making, right? So when you think about whole scale, seed rounds are pretty, like, I would say common for a lot of SaaS and tech companies, right? You've probably seen a million of them kind of, be announced over the last year because of the AI tech boom, right? Like a lot of companies coming out, a lot of founders kind of raising. But in terms of even finding like your perfect audience fit, this kind of just seems to make the most sense, where you recruit specific creators that have a specific interest or wheelhouse in a very specific area of business, and you kind of leverage them much like how FaZe Clan used to do back in the day, right? Like, I think one of the most common examples that I used was like if any of the old FaZe guys wanted to like sell a toilet, it would sell out instantly because the power of their fandom is huge. So in that same very fashion, a lot of the equity that this creator, or really any creator that has built, if they kind of, stepped into the business world to invest in a business or to raise, and I think it's a good trade-off, right? Because effectively you're asking them for equity, but in exchange, you're getting the community, the brand that they've built kind of already front loaded for you. You don't have to now wait, a couple months to build marketing campaigns or even, posting ads, right? Everything is already there. So I think the main reality check is this works for software companies where, customer acquisition is probably the biggest cost, but physical products are different. Like you still need a lot of that manufacturing capital, but for apps, marketplaces, or even SaaS tools, this could be the rule and not the exception, right? And the question isn't whether this will happen, is more of like when creators are, it's only a matter of time for them to be smart enough to actually take equity instead of the cash. We're already seeing a lot of athletes doing that. Saquon Barkley is probably one of the bigger ones that I've seen, right? As, being an investor himself. And I think we've seen that with even a lot of Silicon Valley teams, athletes, whether it's like people on the Warriors or the 49ers, right? Just very savvy people that have built established brands, kind of taking that equity.
Yeah, I've definitely seen, even like you mentioned Logan Paul with Anti-Fund, even Mr. Beast with Night Media, they have, his investment arm. And, as far as I'm concerned, they do really well. So I think it's like they either have like VC people or people with VC backgrounds in there just to make sure that he's making good investments. But yeah, for me, it also makes a lot of sense. The power of distribution is something that is one of the things that AI cannot replace, right? Essentially eyeballs, human eyeballs. And yeah, creators hold those keys and will continue to hold those keys for a very long time. So yeah, I think we were discussing, I think in an earlier conversation, where VCs at some point will just straight up start backing creators. But I think this goes hand in hand, where pairing creators with companies and of course creators providing the distribution and then the companies providing the equity for the creators to kind of align in the vision and the success of those companies is something that is kind of like the natural transition for businesses and also for creators to become like VCs, right? Kind of like Jake Paul. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. Two guys earned $4,700 pretending to be lamps for 8 hours, while another creator made $35,000 building real community engagement. Same platform, same tools, completely different strategies. Welcome to Creator Capital Markets, where the infrastructure enables both legitimate business models and complete absurdity. On PumpFun, creators can launch tokens and earn fees based on trading activity. The platform shares revenue with creators, turning attention into ownership stakes. The lamp guys literally stood with lampshades on their heads for 8 hours. Their token hit 262,000 market cap, and they earned around $4,700 in creator fees just for pretending to be furniture. That's hilarious. Meanwhile, creators like Mika launched the Win token and earned $35K through actual engagement, community building, and strategic content creation. Same tools, same platform, same revenue model, but one's building sustainable business while the other are just pure performance or even playing into speculation. This is the spectrum of creator capital markets. The infrastructure doesn't determine the outcome. The strategy behind does. The lesson here is that some of these new monetization tools amplify whatever you put into them. If you're building real value and community, they can accelerate your business. If you're just chasing attention, you might make money short term, but you're not building anything lasting. Most of these streams are trending to zero, but yeah, tools can definitely amplify strategy, make sure your strategy is worth amplifying. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I have a lot of thoughts behind it, but I guess we can discuss now.
Creator capital markets right now are insane. I think a lot of people, how they're associating it with PumpFun streams kind of being, the main place where anyone really can launch a token through a stream. But yeah, the spectrum certainly is wider. We've seen, guys like the two lamp guys just, standing there for 8 hours. And then you have, someone like Mika just putting a full, well thought out production into the actual launch and kind of hooking people to kind of wonder, is this going to be a recurring thing? It's just night and day, right? The difference. But I still think, for what it's worth, like I'm still very bearish on like creator capital markets, especially when it's tied to like PumpFun, right? I think overwhelmingly creators don't want that onus. And I think there was actually a really good tweet, which, we'll kind of pull up here, that kind of explained the rationale of, why those things, two things need to be decoupled. And a large part of that is they don't want to be tied to the financial swings of, launching a token. And that really absolves the creator from having to focus on so many different things aside from the actual content, which, typically that's what creators want to do. They don't want to have to worry about, some sort of speculative, piece of money or product or stream kind of being financialized, right? And it should be down to helping them project or articulate any of their creative on a stream. So it's been very interesting, I think, to watch. And I think a lot of what feeds the bearish in me is like, why we haven't had actual more mainstream creators launching pump funds. Like I think I've seen on the timeline here and there, a handful of people, but they're not really marquee creators, right? I think they're more or less the bottom rung of the creator spectrum. And it's not as if they carry a ton of weight. Like they're not the Speeds or the Kai Cenats of the world, right? So if we truly want to, see PumpFun succeed and all these, CT creators saying that, this is going to be game changing and, glaze as much as they possibly can, like we're still needing more than, these no-name creators actually coming to the platform to effectively do like a daily stream or even like a weekly stream. And to that point, even like the team, right? Like there's a lot of infrastructure that I think that is still being developed. I think Twitch in the early days, they were supplying all their creators with like streaming backpacks or resources to actually improve, really evangelize the platform for being the best place to stream and make money. But at the same time, like I know PumpFun still is in the early days. And if this truly is, a larger piece of what they're doing, independent of how much allocation they've, made with their own token on the streaming business, I think there's still a lot of road to go.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the sentiment. My thoughts around this is that the space, naively is as things that PumpFun equals creator capital markets. I think that's the narrative, of course, that the platform wants to have. And some of the bigger, I suppose, for lack of a better word, KOLs in the space that are pushing that narrative it's obvious that they are incentive aligned with PumpFun, whether with their own token launch or stream, or they're actually getting paid by PumpFun, right? This is something that people definitely need to know, because often in the space it doesn't even get disclosed, which I think it's part of the problem. The second thing I'll say is a lot of the current streams that are existing PumpFun, they're gonna just trend towards zero, like all the tokens, right? Even for some of the top streams, for example, Bagwork, I like what they're doing as someone who loves being entertained, but in terms of the token, it's really hard that they'll see price action movement from what they've already had. I think they peaked at like around $50 million market cap, and I actually think that they peaked a bit too early because on the first stream they flew out to Vegas, first private jet. They went to like see the boxing or whatever, front seat, and then they were like releasing unreleased Drake music. Like you can't really top that anymore. So therefore, everyone's already kind of sold off and moved on into the next one, right? And that's kind of, again, the issue with PumpFun Platform being linked to like the whole meme coin space, which is like money rotates so fast, and every single week there's like a new shiny object. So until, like you said, marquee creators come into play and they stream every single day for a period of time over years, then you might see something a bit more sustainable. But at the moment, everyone who's going live in that platform and launching a token, you can just and it's fine, right? But let's admit it, they're doing it for the money. They're not doing it just to be a good content creator and to entertain an audience for the love of it. They're doing it for the love of the money, which is, as we spoke previously, kind of like for the wrong reasons. Yeah, I knew those charts would collapse so quickly. And the thing is that, like, to be honest, those crazy like pumps and dumps, they're great for the creators, don't get me wrong. The only thing I don't like about that, because I love the concept of creators making money, I'm all for that, but what I don't love so much is creator audiences losing money. And that's exactly what happens, right? Because where's the money coming from, right? The money's coming from these people clipping into the charts, and then the fees as people volume happens. So yeah, so that's the part where I think most creators that do care about their audience, that's the part where that stops them from doing it. And it's a debate because of, for example, like Jesse Pollack recently mentioned he's gonna launch a coin. I don't think it'll be on PumpFun, probably on Zora, but he's gonna launch his coin. He said that like people shouldn't be scared to do it. So I guess there's a current debate. For me, I personally wouldn't do it. For the little audience that I have, I wouldn't like people just like losing money on something that I launched, right? And it's guaranteed, right? So it's not like anyone can guarantee to go up forever. So yeah.
I might have seen this somewhere on CT. Like, didn't Jesse already launch a token like a while back? Or I think it might have been like a base token. And it just did extremely poorly. Like, it's just, I feel like everyone just, I feel like just everyone just tries to do this. And the main justification is like, there is no justification, man.
Right.
Like, dude, it's just, it's revenue. Like, that's like, there's no other way to put it. Like, you can't put a veil over people's eyes and make them think differently. It is purely for financial gain and means, whether that's to your shareholders or to yourself. It's not for the community. I can guarantee you that. Especially
in the way that these, let's say, financial instruments played out. The 1% makes money, and then like almost 99% lose. So it's really not like a wealth generation event or anything like that. It's just a bunch of few people making a lot of money, a lot of people losing money. So yeah, it's just,
and it's a shame, right? Because like we want, I think, these things to succeed. Like, anything that helps creators with their community, with revenue, with growth, those are all viable and great things for creators to really lean on. And a lot of it is to be self-sustaining, right? You don't want to be beholden to brand sponsorships that you may, not feel it's like the best alignment for your brand, but you're having to take it because it's a lot of money, and it'll, sustain you for, maybe a year, a couple of months. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I think I don't want people that are watching this to think that we're like anti like creator platforms or tools, right? I think anything helps, especially if it helps unseat an incumbent that has been at the front for the past decade and a half. Like, those things are always good. Competition is great. New tools are amazing. But I think there is always going to be, ethical ways to do it, but also just ones that truly benefit creators. And I think in its current form, launching these tokens on the basis of launching a stream, like, just doesn't seem to make the most sense. And if that were the case, like, why aren't all the biggest streamers or creators on crypto doing it if they're so with it, right? I think there's that bit of an inconsistency where if people are constantly championing this platform or this method, they probably have a bag in the company, but really put your money where your mouth is. Like, go stream on PumpFun, launch the token, like do all these things that you're saying, this company is great for, but don't just be, a talking head or an engagement baiter, right? Like actually apply yourself and launch the stream. I think this gives a very clarified and specific answer on why streaming with having a token attached to your name just isn't good from a creator standpoint. Like I'd like to think this post encapsulates everything right about, the current take on this. Like in reality, no creator actually wants to deal with this. I'd like to think it is one of the things where if you're constantly having to think about or stress about, making money on a specific thing while you're live, like I don't care how good you are at multitasking, like financial burdens are like pretty strenuous, right? So it is, I think, one of the most accurate and correct takes on why, this shouldn't actually be a thing. Because there's so many different ways for creators to actually find win-win solutions, not just for themselves to make money, but also to reconcile with their fan base or their community that this is the right way to provide value.
Last thing I'll say on this is there's a couple of novel ways in which creators could actually experiment with let's say with a platform like PumpFun and streaming on it. The first one, for example, is, and a few people did this, I think there was 2 projects. One was Feed the People and the other one was KindCoin. They actually did it in name of charity. So like they were feeding homeless, Feed the People was feeding homeless in LA with like the, with the creator fees. And then Kind was just donating to different people throughout the internet, other creators, people in need. I think that's good because at least, even though there's a bunch of people losing money on the other side, the money is going to a good cause. So it's actually like a overall net positive. And then in the same vein, I think, for example, one of the ways a big creator could frame this to go and stream in PumpFun is if they could frame it to their audience as you're donating. If you're buying the token, you're donating to the stream. And, it's like a donation to me as a creator. You're supporting me. Yes, you might get a chance to like sell it back and make some money, but it's actually a donation. So you're most likely going to lose the money. So see it as a donation to me. Otherwise, do not buy in, right? So if maybe a creator can frame it that way, that kind of just clicked on my head. And it's kind of clever, right? Because you're framing it as like, it's a donation. Yeah, you might be able to sell it back, but you're most likely not going to see the money back. So, just donate it if you want to. And that's it, right? The content is free. Donate if you want to. Done, right? So what do you think?
I think there will always be solutions for a lot of people that are constantly evolving, constantly testing things to succeed. So I don't think there's one right answer, right? I think this also comes from a period of trial and error, but eventually someone's going to figure it out. I think that's what I'm waiting for. I think to kind of call the shots and saying PumpFun is they're going to unseat Twitch or, YouTube, like that's just nonsense, dude. Like you don't know what you're talking about, and you've probably been streaming for less than a year, and you don't truly understand how a company that's been around for, again, more than a decade, like they're king for a reason, right? You're not launching your career as a streamer on PumpFun. Like as much as like CT loves to hype a lot of this kind of stuff, like that's still not the reality of this day and age. So everyone's building complex AI agent systems, but NVIDIA just published research that might kill the whole hype cycle. Here's why smaller might be better. NVIDIA's blueprint shows that small language models, SLMs, can do most of what we really need big AI agents for. And the difference is that SLMs are faster, they're cheaper, and don't require massive infrastructure. So while everyone's talking about AI agents that can do different things and everything together, NVIDIA is asking, what if simpler is actually better? This matters for creators because it means AI tools could get dramatically cheaper and more accessible, not more expensive and complex. And there's new data that shows 93% of creators use AI tools now, but most are using it for basic stuff. transcription, chatbots, image recognition, and the advanced tools everyone's talking about, too complex or even expensive for most creators. The opportunity isn't in using the most sophisticated AI, it's in using simple AI really well. And creators spend about $53 per piece of content on music licensing alone. AI could solve that tomorrow. So the best AI tools don't feel like AI tools, they just work. SLM, or the small language model, like when that paper came out, I just thought it was an interesting read because a lot of the focus has been on LLMs, right? Like it's the basis of every single agent platform that exists. It's probably more commonly understood and known, even from the layperson's perspective, that this is just how AI agents work, right? But the fact that NVIDIA, a clear market leader and the supplier of a lot of the tech, publishing the actual research saying that SLMs could effectively do everything that big AI agents can, but in a smaller form factor, more economical, easier, less infrastructure. Like that's insane, right? Because I think everyone's trying to compete for the same mind share, the same dollars. But if a company like NVIDIA is saying, what if simpler is actually better? Like I wonder truly how that kind of rebalances the entire ecosystem. But for creators specifically, it just means that tools could get dramatically cheaper and more accessible and not more expensive and complex, which is always a great thing. I feel like creators probably overspend just from being first adopters of tech, right? Just trying to find the latest thing to help improve like their workflows or cadence for posting. So I think this is pretty big development if it actually does become a standard.
Yeah, 100%. I know from the few creators that I know that use AI tools on their day-to-day, there's so many different things to try, right? There's so many LLMs, chatbots, everything. And yeah, they all cost something. So yeah, anything that can make let's say the tech cheaper definitely helps. Even a lot of creators that are venturing into vibe coding, people like Butoshi, for example, I'm sure that they have so many subscriptions to, Cursor, Claude, ChatGPT. Hopefully we can keep seeing the tech get cheaper over time, because, I just don't see it going away, right? So best we can hope for is that we can keep, dependency, and also that we can keep most of our money as well. But hey, we'll see.
Yeah, and I think in this most recent interview with A16Z, Andreessen, I believe it was Box's CEO that was saying AI fluency is the most powerful skill a new grad can have right now. And I would say it's probably very true. Like when I think about like my own experience in college, I think a lot of it was kind of pushed towards, very stable industries, whether it's like being a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant or, making use of your economics degree. But just the fact that AI has influenced and made its way in every single facet of our lives right now, it kind of seems to go back to the common question of like, will AI replace jobs, right? And the point that I still have with that is like, it won't. To a degree, it'll help amplify a lot of the things that I think we're doing. But even if it does, like people that have and are fluent in AI probably will succeed a lot better, right? And this also kind of is in line with OpenAI's recent study that revealed 73% of ChatGPT right now is used specifically for personal stuff and not work related. So people are asking practical guidance, seeking information, and getting writing help, right? And half of all those messages are quote unquote asking. So they're effectively treating ChatGPT as an advisor, and it's not, complete these tasks for me, right? I think for creators, that's huge, because if you understand how to really implement a lot of these AI in your workflow, you become valuable to every brand and agency. And I think there are ways where you can do it so it's not like you're copy and pasting everything that, GPT tells you. You're amplifying kind of your current work, your current brand. And I think people that can write prompts very specifically and write them well, they fully understand that that's meant to be a modification and addition versus an actual replacement, right? And I think more so in the landscape, and this probably is changing to a degree over time, but most companies are terrible with AI adoption right now, but they really do need people who can actually bridge that gap between what AI can do and how their business actually works. And I think we're going to be seeing that probably rise over the next couple of years. I mean, maybe just based off even how the current cycles are going, even in the next couple of months.
I think AI fluency will be the closer reality of the version of that people say that like AI will replace our jobs. I think AI fluency will probably be the closer reality. So you remember how when a few years after the internet, let's say, became established, a lot of job descriptions started saying, do you have like Microsoft Suite proficiency? Can you use like, the Google Suite or whatever? Can you, do you know how to use email? I think that's the world where we're heading to, where, job descriptions will be like required, LLM proficiency, being able to prompt to enhance your workflows, etc., right? So I wouldn't be surprised even seeing like AI fluency qualifications coming into play eventually, right? Just to get like certified on how to prompt with ChatGPT, or something like that. So yeah, I think is the direction we're going pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think this specific survey, which talks about like the top AI tools currently in use by creators, I think the breakdown, and we'll have the graphic up, but the top AI tools currently in use by creators, like 65% is like image and video recognition software, 57% automated transcription tools, and then 55% for chatbots or virtual assistants, 53% for personalized recommendation engines, and then you have a measly 6.7% of creators that don't currently use any AI powered tools. Like, I think this image is, or rather this survey is pretty telling in terms of like where AI fits into a creator's workflow, right? And in terms of finding the proper stacks to help you succeed, I think music probably also, just as a lot of the survey is saying, is like that plays a pretty significant role in the performance of your own content and monetization. So utilizing a lot of these tools to help simplify not just your growth, but standing out from the millions of other people that want to be creators, like it really is a solid ad, right?
Yeah. I think that's a mind-blowing stat. The data showing 93% of creators use AI tools now, but most of them are using it for just the basics, which is like transcription, I'm guessing like AI captions, chatbots, just to chat with ChatGPT, for example, and image recognition. So I suppose they're like putting images in, asking questions, or getting inputs out. That's very like, I would say that's a very like superficial level of usage of AI. Yeah, it's pretty much like, I suppose, like the lowest hanging fruit that you can use AI for. But I know there's definitely creators out there that have taken it to the next level. And yeah, like you said, implemented it into their workflows. So being able to literally save hours and hours a week of work just by getting the AI to kind of replace some of the daily task or the weekly tasks that they have. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think over time people will learn more and more to like use the AI to its full potential. But yeah, I think it's still very nascent and people are just kind of using it like cavemen type of thing. You know? Yeah. So Whop just broke free from Stripe and they built their own payment system. Here's why that matters for every creator who's tired of payment processor rules. So apart from lowering their fees, Whop is offering payments or payouts in Bitcoin, stablecoins, local bank transfers, whatever you want. This is huge for creators because they can finally get paid in the way they want to get paid, not the way the payment processors decide. So for example, tell me one Twitch creator that hasn't had an issue with Twitch and PayPal blocking their donations. Now, a creator can simply select crypto payouts and the crypto will automatically go to their wallet. You know, they actually own what they earn. So, you know, this is massive. The bigger lesson is that the brands that win are going to be the ones that own their infrastructure, payment processing, customer relationships, even distribution channels. What Whop is doing with payments, every creator should be doing with platforms. Build systems you control, even if it's harder than using someone else's. We're in the middle of a massive infrastructure rebuild. The creators who understand this just won't benefit from the tools, they'll own pieces of the infrastructure. Ownership beats optimization every time.
I mean, it was mostly based off of seeing this announcement from one of their co-founders and their CEO, you know, announcing this as a pretty big deal, which honestly is, just because the fact that anytime that you can help amplify any of the solutions for a creator, or really for any brand, it's insane that that they've lowered their credit card rates, right, to 2.7%, and that sellers can get paid out in nearly every country through their local banks, you know, Bitcoin, crypto, or any other stable coins. Like, it's pretty good for anyone that is running a business on Whop. Just because I'd like to think Stripe is everywhere. Like, they're probably one of the, if not the only major integration for a lot of brands, companies, and even creators. So the fact that they're kind of building their own infrastructure, like, you love to see wins like this.
Yeah, I would say I find the Whop team a lot more impressive than the Kaluli team. And I know that might be a hot take, but these guys are also really young. I have been aware of Whop since 2021 because I remember I thought they were a Web3 company because I remember they had, you know, crypto NFT tooling back then to where they could, projects could plug it into the Discord. And if you were a holder of the NFT, you know, you could essentially get like whitelist, things like that, and verify through Whop. So I used to think they were a crypto company. Turns out a few years later, I heard from them again and I was like, weren't they a crypto company? And they're like, no, they're working with so much outside of crypto as well. And I was like, wow. And then a few months before this announcement, they also announced Iman Gaji as their co-owner. And Iman, he's like, he's quite a controversial figure. But one thing I'll tell you is that he started amassing a huge following and doing very well in the social media, digital media space since he was 16. And again, very, very good salesman. He gets a lot of flack because yes, he sells courses, but he sells courses. He knows how to sell. So yeah, I think that team is very, internet savvy. And I mean, as you can see, they're actually disrupting the space. They know how to drop trailers too. They know how to market. But in terms of their product, they are there as well. So props to them. And taking on the big guys like Stripe, I know is not easy. So yeah, and I like how they've iterated on top of it and also figure out a way to bring in crypto into it, which is going to help a lot of people have a lot less blockers, because there's a lot of countries in the world where there is no local bank transfers and they don't have a bank account. So now they can. Now they can have a business. So that's huge.
Yeah, and I think the bigger indicator here too is probably everything that we tell creators all the time as management, right? It's like you want to own the means of distribution, the content, every aspect of it. And that even comes with payments too, right? So if you ultimately own and build your own systems that you control, it's harder for someone to shut you down or for you to even just lose revenue, right? So that entails like you're just in this period of time where we're in the middle of a massive infrastructure rebuild, right? And the creators that don't understand that won't benefit from the tools. They'll own pieces of the infrastructure, right? Ultimately, you'll always want to take ownership over optimization. And it is one of the things where I think as managers and as people that work with creators, like I think we'll always champion companies that help creators succeed, independent of whatever existing tools or platforms are out there. Like we certainly want to give them every avenue for success and every resource to succeed.